And
Larissa.
just Larissa? No last. What was that?
Larissa Page.
Larissa Page. And we've got a fun show planned for you today. COVID-19, the vaccine, all of that. We've got a whole bunch of news in that realm these days. I'm going to then afterwards be talking about airplanes, how they work, and finally, phosphorus, the reason why we can't see any aliens out there. Catch you all again very, very soon.
Online, on the iOS and Android, on your mobile phones. Great speakers conversation around the globe. This is Relaks Radio.
It's time for a show on Relaks Radio. It talks about me and you. It's time for a show on Relaks Radio. It talks about me and you. So listen to us here 24 hours and let the happiness come to you on Relaks Radio. Tune in to Relaks Radio.
Relaks Radio.
Hello everyone and hello everybody. Welcome to the Wednesday Witterer with me, Jorge Shaft. And joining me in the studio today is...
Larissa Page.
Well, yes, I know that I know that I do this joke all the time of like joining me in the studio today, and then I have like, you know, past examples include the existential dread of realizing it's 9 o'clock. I've had like my bag, I've had like my computer, I've had like articles. It's like a real person. Like this is not every day. So welcome to the studio,
Thank
Clarissa.
you. Thank you.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. You know, chilling, and really excited to talk a bit about the news. Well, not particularly the news, more about this very interesting thing that's happened with COVID-19.
Yeah.
Just yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
What can you say about COVID? It's
Right.
not gonna go away.
So let's go for like a little bit of a start, shall we? A little bit of a simple beginning on this, which is breath tests detect COVID-19 within a minute. Specifically, it's in the NUS, which is the Singaporean sort of it's basically associated with the University of Singapore. It's just in the past few days. Depends where you look, but the oldest article I've seen on it was about a day old. And they've come up with this new test that you can do. To quote their own sort of like Twitter page, NUS deep tech spin-off Breathonics has developed an easy-to-use breath test that detects COVID-19. Oh, no, hashtag COVID-19, not just COVID-19, within a minute. This technology could potentially be used for mass screening in places like airports and dormitories. Hashtag NUS research, hashtag impact, hashtag NUS grip. But yeah, what do you think?
Hopefully this is more effective than the vaccines. I feel like this is the best way to get in control over COVID. Yeah.
So you think that it's going to be like more effective? Yeah, you see, it's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
Oh, you're
No,
going to say
continue.
it's quite interesting you're saying like more effective, because like it's one of those things where you think on one hand, well, of course it's not going to be as effective because, well, it's not a vaccine itself, it's not a cure.
Yeah, it's true. It's not a cure, but in the sense of like diagnosing, I feel like because the normal tests with when you stick it in your nose and everything like that, not everyone can get access to that. So the fact that this breathalyzer's here, I think, is a convenient way to get everyone tested.
Yeah, the current tests are really not convenient,
Yeah.
are they? I did one a while ago, and it was like,
same.
okay, here's the swab. It's like it's in your mouth, and it's like, oh no.
Shoving your nose, and it's just like, that's it, done.
And for me, it's just
Get
the
a
mouth,
test.
it's like back
Oh,
of the
did
mouth,
you?
like
No, they put it into my nose, proper inside.
You know, it's almost like right at that spot, you know, where you touch at the back of your mouth and you almost
Yeah.
swallow.
Yeah.
Not vomit. Sorry, it makes you vomit. It's like,
Yeah.
get it out of there.
Yeah.
And came back. It's like, Congratulations, George. You don't have the plague. You get to live, at least for a little bit.
Yeah, literally. That's how it's like.
And that's how I intend to keep it. For those of you who are just listening on the app, I've put a mask over my face. Unfortunately, radio studios and audio mean that it's, I'm risking my life here.
Yeah.
With this other person here, and I just talk into the microphone.
That's being used by everybody.
You're just being abused by everybody. Yeah. I mean, yes, it is. But my defense is no, you.
Yeah.
But you did mention sort of like a vaccine earlier, and I have a Telegraph article here from a bit older, but which has a really interesting thing. So, according to the Daily Telegraph, it was titled COVID-19 Vaccine. When will coronavirus cure be ready in the UK? You see, the thing about this is there's been so much talk, so much discussion about like, oh, we're going to have like a vaccine, but when?
Yeah.
And it's interesting to think like what would be the different kind of like approaches and when exactly? What are the timelines involved? And something that really makes this sort of discovery of like, oh, hey, if we could actually find coronavirus really quickly. It's like, oh, hey, now I've sidestepped the whole discussion. You just sit standing like a big smile.
Yeah, because I'm listening to what you're saying.
Yeah. So, let's go for the article.
Okay.
Since coronavirus emerged in January, in Britain anyway, almost 200 vaccine candidates have been put into development, with at least 15 on human trials. Yeah, and the first one was human trials, I remember. From the article. It started in like April, and they even had this big dramatic thing with a picture where it's like, oh, here's the first person to get like the.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
It's like this woman in a red shirt, and it was, which I thought was kind of morbid. It's like a red shirt, really, like Star Trek.
I want to think about it like that. Yeah, it is.
But anyway, it was like, oh yeah, here she is. She's getting her vaccine, and she's the first one.
And when you think about it, you've never heard anything from her since. That's it. You don't know how it took. Nothing.
Maybe it worked. You see, my mind it goes into like multiple places. One is like, oh, it worked, amazing, fantastic. But then the other thought was like, maybe she. It's like maybe not. Maybe she actually got the disease.
Exactly.
And we're getting a conspiracy that's telling us no. Nobody will ever need to know.
Exactly.
No, that vaccine. The other thought I've also had was just like, yeah, it's like they had almost like some dark comedy where it's like, oh yeah, look at the huge fanfare. She's getting the first vaccine. She walks out of the building like some huge fanfare fan. It's just like immediately hit by a bus. It's like it's some extreme, in some extreme dark comedy, and it's like oh, it's like it's like the bus stops and like the bus driver's like, oh my god, and the researchers are just like, nobody will know. Like nobody will ever know.
Yeah.
Anyway. Let's go for the article continuing. Vaccines. Oh, do you want to read it?
Vaccines undergoing trials at Oxford University and in Germany are the most likely candidates to be ready this year. Experts have said, but there are also candidates being tested in the US, Russia and China.
However, the head of the UK's vaccine task force has warned that a jab is likely to be only 50% effective. Kate Bingham said that any vaccine capable of immunizing against the coronavirus will likely only be as effective as the flu vaccine. It's one of those things where it's like, it's actually quite difficult to make vaccines for viruses. And so, especially ones that evolve fairly quickly like this one, like the coronavirus. I mean, have you ever had the flu vaccine?
Have I? I don't think so, no, I haven't.
You've never had the flu vaccine?
No.
That's okay, me neither.
Yeah, because usually they'll target at like, young toddlers, babies and like the elderly.
Yeah.
Or if you have asthma.
Yeah, exactly. It's targeted at like the people who are the most at risk for it.
Exactly.
But even then it becomes like a yearly jab. Where it's like, and the reason why is because it evolves so fast that it's like, oh, here's some viruses. And the immune system's like, oh, great, fantastic, we know how to deal with that.
Yeah.
But at the same time next year it's like, it's almost
changed.
Yeah, it's almost like something from like a science fiction movie, like The Thing or Aliens, where it's like it's completely different already.
Constantly evolving.
It is constantly evolving.
Yeah, but I heard with the whole vaccines that you know, 'cause especially with the news, I feel like especially Sky News, they kept pushing this whole thing where it's like, oh, it was really affecting, you know, the ethnic groups like the Filipinos and the Africans and stuff like that. And there was, I'm not sure if this is quite true, but I saw something online. But you know, social media, you never know.
Yes, I am familiar with the
Yeah.
concept of social media.
Do you know that? Do you know about Instagram?
It's like, no, what is Instagram?
Well, yeah, I saw like on this blog page where they were saying that how they're trying to push the vaccine on ethnic people for them to get the trial and stuff like that. That to get tested. I don't know, because
Interesting.
since
So-
they are most affected by corona.
Yes, I do remember seeing something
Yeah.
about that. It's like how black people in America and in Britain are more at risk
Yeah,
of COVID than the sort of general population as a
Yeah.
whole. That is something I've seen. It's not something I'm particularly familiar with. Hi,
Yeah.
I'm a guy who studied history and politics and knows random things. I'm not a scientist, but
Yeah.
a lot of that I've seen. I'm not really sure why. Is it? Do you have any idea why that is?
I don't know why, to be honest. Maybe. Let me just think about that. Maybe.
While we're thinking, we're going to continue. I'm just going to
Reading the article.
just keep mentioning what Kate Bingham said. Kate Bingham, being researcher sort of involved with this. The vaccines we have for flu are about 50% effective, and there are annual shots based on the strain that emerges each summer, which we then get vaccinated for in the winter. She then added as well. So I think it would be fair to say we shouldn't assume it's going to be, for the moment, better than the flu vaccine. She also said that there was a slim chance that the Oxford COVID-19 vaccine would be ready before Christmas.
Ooh.
So all those people who've been thinking like, oh, Christmas would be
A merry time.
a merry time, it's like, no,
No.
we might end up
Take
with
your vaccine now.
it's like, no, we're probably going to end up with like a Christmas lockdown.
Yeah,
Wouldn't-
I definitely believe we are.
Wouldn't that be quite the Christmas ghost, the ghost of Christmas past,
Yeah.
present, and lockdown.
Yeah.
So like instead of the Grim Reaper, it's just like at home. It got a contact screwed via Skype.
Yeah.
So have you thought of like why? Earlier we were discussing why, the fact that the COVID-19 virus is more deadly, or has proven to be more deadly towards people in certain ethnic groups than in others. Clarissa here said that she was thinking about why that is. Do you have any idea?
I feel like because we're on the front line, especially when it comes to like NHS and stuff like that. When you think about it, a lot more of ethnic groups are, they work. Like a lot of nurses are
True.
black or Asian and stuff like that. So
Yeah, that's
that's the reason why.
that's completely true. Like the NHS does have a much higher proportion of immigrants in general than the British population, which it kind of makes sense from the point of view of like Britain goes, oh hey, doctors of the world, we'll pay you better.
Yeah.
And the doctors of the world go, oh gee, that sounds nice. And they just go here.
Yeah.
And then, well, hey, we've just ended up with more doctors and more nurses. But, the flip side of that is since they're more exposed to the virus, they're more at risk.
Yeah.
And, well, fortunately, percentage of them end up passing away because of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's an interesting one. And so, when you look at it like that, you could say it's a controversial one, but, it would make sense that if you're making a trial vaccine, that you would target sort of a more vulnerable population, to try and get the most effective result.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm just throwing out a controversial idea here.
Thinking. Maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe. I
Just-
can't. I don't know.
So I don't know. So it's but people who can't say no, let's use it on them. Why not?
Yeah, I know it. They don't really have that much say, so might as well just stick it into them and
Just
see. Hopefully it
Stick
works.
it in,
Yeah.
Give it like the medical equivalent, like, spit and prayers. And
Yeah.
if it doesn't work,
It's okay.
Yeah.
We'll try again. Go back to the labs.
It's like, oh no, back to the drawing board.
Yep.
So it's like there's graves in front of the drawing board, and it's like, okay, well, anyway, so.
Yeah.
Hi, welcome to the Wednesday Witterer, where Jorge Shaft is today feeling especially morbid. So that sort of reframes back to what I'd started with in this sort of episode, where I was talking about this new discovery for basically a breathalyzer test, but for COVID instead of the, vaccine or alcohol or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's definitely something that, when you see that, it's like, oh, it's going to take months and months now to make a vaccine. It's going to be like a huge thing.
Yeah.
It's almost like, we've got to accept it. It's reality.
It's the way of life. Do you feel like, something I've even noticed is that everyone thinks that by the end of the year, COVID is just going to vanish, because everyone's like, oh, 2020 has been a crap year. This has happened. Bad year.
Yeah.
I can't wait for next year. And it's like, why do people feel like it's just going to end? Oh, yeah, 2020 was just for coronavirus and that's it.
Yeah, it's like, oh, 2020 was so bad. Luckily, 2021 will magically have all of that cured.
Exactly. Everything will be much better.
I saw a meme about that where it's like there's like, the meme where there's like the guy at the front, he's like all cheerful, and the guy's like a giant wrestler guy at the back looking really angry. Yeah. It's all one where it's like that. It was like 2020 was at the front and it had like, coronavirus, all this stuff. And at the back was just 2021.
Fresh start. Yeah.
It's like fresh start. All those bad things are going to keep going.
Yeah, I've seen that meme.
Yeah, but it is true. That meme. That, why would the coronavirus just disappear? Like, that's not how biology works.
Exactly.
It's once it's out there, it's a thing.
Yeah, that's it.
And then everybody's going to get it.
Literally.
And then we're all going to be sick and have a bad time.
Yeah.
Which is
really funny.
Which is really morbid, and it's really tragic because over 1 million people have died already of this virus. And yes, over time diseases generally evolve to become less deadly because they spread more.
Yeah.
When, the host doesn't die, but how long is that going to take?
Oh, who knows?
Exactly. And on that grim note, let's break up the flow a bit and invite some other people to talk, should we?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, let's listen to what these other people have to say. We'll catch you all again very, very soon.
Whoa, Relaks Radio.
আপনি হয়তোবা জানেন না যে রেডিও অ্যাডভার্টাইজমেন্ট ইজ 4 times more powerful than any other media. রিল্যাক্স রেডিওতে যদি অ্যাডভার্টাইজ করতে চান তাহলে আমাদেরকে আজই যোগাযোগ করুন on 020-7474-9292. আমাদের সাথে অ্যাডভার্টাইজ করুন from £99 a month. Increase your business by advertising on Relaks Radio.
It's time for a show on Relaks Radio. It talks about me and you. It's time for a show on Relaks Radio. It talks about me and you. So listen to us, 24 hours, and let the happiness come to you on Relaks Radio. Tune in to Relaks Radio.
It has been too long. No one has taken the initiative to know who you are and what you do. Well, Relaks proudly presents Relaks Media to unite and expose all media-related personalities under one umbrella. If you are an artist or maybe you're looking for one, look no further. Log on to www.relaksmedia.com. RELAKS media.com. relaxradio.com. In return, you get a free webpage and exposure to wider fan appreciation and contacts. Also, optional personal manager. Don't delay.
Relaks Radio.
Hello everyone, and greetings, good people. My name is Jorge Shaft, and you are listening to the Wednesday Witterer with Jorge Shaft, and joining me in the studio today is...
Larissa Page.
Larissa Page. Probably going to become a new Relaks Radio presenter, if I hear.
Yes, very soon.
Very, very soon.
Yes.
What are the good people going to hear?
Gonna be, let's say, a lot of current topics that's happening in the UK scene, and just things that's really deep with my heart, basically, like a lot of serious subjects, a lot of social subjects. For example, one of them that I'm going to talk about very soon is about what's been going on in Africa, stuff like Nigeria and Congo. Yeah.
I had a thought, let's keep on with the coronavirus, but you know what? I'm actually more curious about this. What kind of social sort of subjects? What do you like to talk about? What is your...
Me?
Because I asked you downstairs before the show, and what do you want to talk about? And you're like, I don't know. Oh, COVID's interesting.
Yeah.
But now you're saying social issues in Africa. What kind of stuff?
Like right now, there's this. It's so heartbreaking, honestly. But in Nigeria, they're fighting police brutality. And basically, there's a lot of peaceful protests that's been happening in Nigeria. And what the Nigerian government is doing is getting the police or even the army going out just randomly just shooting the protesters.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about this, actually.
Yeah, that's good.
It's just almost like random shootings. Here's a bunch of people. And then in one case, it's almost like they did just a drive-by. They just showed up, shot at the crowd, and then it's okay, let's go now. Yeah,
let's go, yeah. Hopefully this keeps them quiet.
Yeah, it's horrific.
It's absolutely disgusting, honestly.
Yeah.
Just for change, and it's heartbreaking.
I mean, it's always for change. It's always protests for change that get, these kind of massive authoritarian kind of pushbacks.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever sort of protested for let's keep things the same.
Yeah.
And then when they do that, the people in charge are not going to be like, oh no, how terrible. They're going to be like, yeah, more of this, please.
Yeah.
I like this.
Literally, yeah.
So,
what can you do?
Well, there's a lot you can do, really.
Yeah.
But the problem is whether there's going to be the sort of capacity and the will to do so. I mean, a lot of the world at the moment's a bit distracted by the madman in the United States, who's in the White House.
Yeah.
He takes up a lot of oxygen and a lot of attention.
Yeah.
And it means that sort of real social issues, and especially a lot of kind of long-term trends, just get ignored.
Yeah. It's like an uproar for a good couple of weeks. Sometimes it can last for maybe a couple of months, and after it just dies down, and the next trending topic hits it up again.
Yeah, because you see, because the whole thing with Nigeria, it's the type of thing that I think even in Obama's presidency that would have been major news.
Yes.
Everywhere, because it'd be oh hey, so the police in the most populated country in Africa is just massacring people.
Yeah.
For basically no reason.
No reason, just because they're tired of the maltreatment they've been receiving.
Yeah. It's that's the kind of thing which you'd think would get the world to go oh, that's...
Yeah.
No, please don't do that. We look really bad when we do business with you when you do that kind of thing,
Yeah, well, I think with Africa, they don't care. That's the sad thing about it. And the thing is that I feel because it's not so much all over the news, I believe, is because we're literally getting updates through social media. We're getting all this information from protesters, not from the news, not from CNN, Africa, none of that. It's more to do with the protesters going on social media, going on live, saying, guys, this is what they're doing to us. They're shooting us. This is what's happening. And we're just having a peaceful protest.
Yeah.
So
that's a common thing with a lot of these protests.
Yeah.
The news, there's been so many cases now recently where the news finds out about a protest at all through the people in it.
Yeah. It's just crazy.
It's really interesting though, because even when there are protests, which like
Yeah.
the media then covers really in depth.
Yeah.
Even then, a lot of that's like, so what are the protesters saying? And like, what
Yeah.
social media got?
Yeah.
Oh, there's a particularly horrific video. Let's write an article on it.
Literally, yeah.
And so it could be a case where it's like, well, if I wanted to play like some kind of horrible devil's advocate,
Yeah.
I could be saying like, oh, maybe the media hasn't, gotten round to it yet. But, it's on the back burner. They'll cover it. Trust me.
Yeah,
Kind of
hopefully. We'll hope for that. Hopefully, that's the case.
Hopefully that's the case.
Yeah.
It's probably not, though, is
No,
it?
I don't think so.
It's like just saying that is just like, this is just ridiculous.
I won't say it's ridiculous, but you never know. You have to hope, have hope with it all.
Hope for the
Yeah.
best.
Yeah.
Hope that they were just like, oopsie. Didn't see.
Didn't see.
Didn't see those massacres in the streets there.
No, yeah, no, not the big one that happened yesterday.
yeah.
No, we didn't.
I'm just stepping over the bodies. Hang on a moment.
Don't worry about it.
What's the weather like?
Literally. No, but hopefully this actually, something good comes out of this, and hopefully there is change, like actual change, not changing where, just to keep the rest of the world quiet, but change for the people, because it's needed.
Yeah. Nigeria's been a bit of a mess for a while now.
Yeah.
They had in the north, they had that whole insurgency,
Yeah.
which, kidnapped people and, took over cities and
Yeah.
ended up having to be driven out by artillery barrages and mass assaults and all the whole works.
Yeah.
What was the name of? It's Boko Haram was the name of
Yeah, that's it.
the insurgency, and that's basically. I mean, the insurgency part's still kind of ongoing, really.
Yeah.
But the kind of like the mass assaults, the sort of cities under their control thing, that was only like 3-4 years ago. It's like
And it's still ongoing. As I said, there's too much corruption everywhere in the world, but now it's finally corruption's been shed on Africa. The light's coming out.
Do you think anything's going to be done about it?
Oh, you know what? I feel like this one will do, because it's different now. Because the fact that I don't feel like this has ever really been done. Maybe because social media is involved, but the fact that they're actually putting their foot down and saying it's enough, we're tired, and not in like in a volatile way. They're just literally, it's again peaceful. So I feel like this one will be done. And the fact that everyone, like, you got a lot of celebrities, putting out statements and, being supportive with the youth in Nigeria. So yeah, I feel like this one something will definitely happen.
Yeah. Especially thinking about that, especially when the authorities have so clearly made themselves the bad guy.
Yeah.
It's like, it's hard to recover from that kind of public image
Exactly.
problem.
And I feel like just too much blood has been shed. Too much innocent lives has been lost.
I mean, yeah. Do you have any idea on what the death toll so far has been?
Because they had a little massacre yesterday, and what I read from was 78 people.
And that's just one. That was just not one massacre.
One, yeah. So we're not even including the lives that has been lost in the hands of the police. So imagine this whole process, this whole journey, the amount of lives that's been lost.
Yeah, and remember that's just one incident.
Exactly, just one.
It's been happening in multiple cities. This whole thing. Lagos had a huge one.
Yes.
As well. It's like, the real deal, but which is not exactly the best way of putting it, but true. What do you think? What do you think are the solutions, though? Because you said you think this is going to be different.
Yeah.
What do you think different would look like?
Different would look like is.
Oh, by the way, if you talk about this sort of thing in your show at any point, you are allowed to say listen to me
You have to wait, guys.
listen to me at this.
You have to wait. Yeah. What I think would be a solution? It's just getting rid of the SARS, getting rid of them, end that, and when the whole police, making sure that this law is being placed. Because the thing when it comes to police everywhere in Africa, you can literally get away with anything if you just give them money. It's all about bribery there, and that's the problem. You can get away with anything, not anything, but you can bend rules if you pay them.
Yeah.
That's the problem. one of the problems.
Would that even go so far as to like assassination or something like that? Because the whole process are about them shooting people,
Yeah,
and then
they shooting.
and then they double
yeah.
down on that
Yeah.
big time. And so my thoughts was like, if you could just like walk up to a cop and pay them, to do what you want, could that even go so far as something extreme as that? Which would then make these shootings even more nefarious, because it's like it's not even a case of like, oh, we were just going for a suspect. It's like, no, I'm actually a hired hitman in a police uniform.
Yeah. Oh, when you put it like that.
That's it's not very comfortable, is it?
Yeah. But you know what?
You think it's likely, don't you?
Sorry?
You think it's likely, don't you? Like with that
Yeah.
facial expression. Her facial expression is a kind of like, yeah, I'm just, how should I put it? It's like, yeah, I'm just about to choose the evil option in a video game.
It's a with the eyebrow raised.
Yeah. It's like, it is grim.
Yeah, it is very.
Listen for Clarissa's show when she talks
Yeah.
about all of this stuff in
Stay
detail.
tuned.
I'm very,
Sounds
very
like that.
curious to listen to it. And I'll make sure to watch
Great.
out for it whenever it shows up on Relaks Radio.
Yes, love to hear that.
Speaking of Relaks Radio, some other people really want to have a chat,
Yeah.
so let's let them. I'm going to catch you again very soon.
Whoa, Relaks Radio.
আপনি হয়তোবা জানেন না যে রেডিও অ্যাডভার্টাইজমেন্ট ইজ 4 times more powerful than any other media. রিল্যাক্স রেডিওতে যদি অ্যাডভার্টাইজ করতে চান তাহলে আমাদেরকে আজই যোগাযোগ করুন on 020-7474-9292. আমাদের সাথে অ্যাডভার্টাইজ করুন from £99 a month. Increase your business by advertising on Relax Radio.
It's time for a show on Relax Radio. It talks about me and you. It's time for a show on Relax Radio. It talks about me and you. So listen to us here 24 hours and let the happiness come to you on Relax Radio. Tune in to Relax Radio.
It has been too long. No one has taken the initiative to know who you are and what you do. Well, Relax proudly presents Relax Media to unite and expose all media-related personalities under one umbrella. If you are an artist or maybe you're looking for one, look no further. Log on to www.relaxmedia.com. RELAKS media.com. In return, you get a free webpage and exposure to wider fan appreciation and contacts. Also, optional personal manager. Don't delay.
Relax Radio.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Wednesday Witterer. My name is Jorge Shaft, and unfortunately Clarissa had to go, but make sure to check out for her show when she starts to do it. I quite enjoyed talking to her, and hope that maybe this will continue long into the future. However, now we've got to cover the reality of the fact that I walked in today. I'm going to give you the picture, right? I walked in today thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to talk about 2 subjects, and when those two subjects are done, well, the show will be done. So, hooray! But then, of course, now there's Clarissa there, adding a 3rd subject, all the kind of discussions and debates and theories and all that, yada yada. But now you might be wondering, okay, but George, what was that first subject? What were you going to talk about? What was your thing? I'm glad you asked. So, airplanes. How do they work? And what are they? And what are they? What are they for? What do they do? You might remember that last week I did a mass appeal for any information on airplanes, on like how they work, what is their history, and I've got to say that I'm a bit disappointed. Didn't really get much at all. So I had to do all of my own research. Boo. Now I thought I could maybe outsource my research to the good people of Relaks Radio, and no. Turns out that I can't outsource my research. I need to do it myself. Boo. So where do we start? Well, airplanes, or planes, or aeroplanes, or any number of names, are vehicles that follow all generally the same idea. Best described as go fast to fly. And flying's kind of nice because you want to go places really quick. Remember, some of you, if you're veterans, might remember that way back in last winter, I did a segment discussing helicopters. I talked about how the blades sort of spin really fast to make the thing go up, and then you tilt the helicopter to turn and go where you actually want to go. Well, the physics that hit planes are of course the same. Why wouldn't they? They're still flying on the same planet. But what are they? NASA has got their first little start on that. How do airplanes fly? Asks NASA, the people who are famous for making rockets. 4 forces keep an airplane in the sky. They are lift, weight, thrust, and drag. Lift pushes the airplane up. The way air moves around the wings gives the airplane lift. The shape of the wings will also help with that too. In particular, one of the sort of big tricks on how to make sure a plane flies when it goes is, next time you go and take a flight, next time you want to go, to a holiday after all of the craziness has ended, pay attention to the shape of the wings and the way they are. You are almost guaranteed to see the fact that on the top side, they're actually often kind of fairly curved. They're fairly sort of, bumpy. They've got stuff on them. But with the exception of the engines, the bottom side is actually fairly smooth. It's even further sort of notable when you look at it from like a cross section. You see that it's especially visible on like World War II planes. You see that the top side it's almost like a kid's drawing of a hill. It's this little bump. But then, like a kid's drawing of a hill, the bottom side is the paper line. It's just a straight, flat thing. Why is that? Well, think about it. When the plane is moving, and it's going fast, think of the air. No, the little molecules of oxygen. And carbon dioxide and, mostly nitrogen. When they're going through. The ones that are hit and then go like just underneath the wing, they go straight through, no problem. But the molecules that are just above the wing, they kind of need to go over a little bit of a journey, going over the wing, bouncing over it, flying off. That means, of course, that the air underneath is going faster than the ones going on top. Net effect, of course, the plane rises, goes up, which is good for a vehicle that is intended to be moving around. The second force that's hitting the plane is, of course, the weight. Weight, according to NASA, is the force that pulls the airplane towards the Earth. Airplanes are built so that their weight is spread out from the front to the back. It also keeps the airplane balanced. Another sort of force on that, of course, is gravity, because, gravity is the same idea as like all the stuff on the Earth falls to the Earth unless some other force is keeping them up. Of course, the force that is keeping it up, in many ways for an airplane, is the thrust. Thrust is the force that moves the airplane forward. Engines that give thrust to the airplanes. Sometimes an engine turns a propeller, other times it will turn a jet engine. More on that later. It doesn't matter as long as the air keeps going over the wings, and that is the crucial thing. The air has to be going over the wings, never under it. If the air is going under the wings, then, well, why would the plane go anywhere? What would be the, as I described earlier, why would the plane fly? It wouldn't. It would just stay where it is. Or worse, it would be going downwards, and the engines would have to constantly be fighting that. So, make sure that the airplane has wings that make sure that the air goes over it, not under. Last, of course, is the drag. Even though you have these wings that are so beautifully made to make sure that the air goes over it, some of those air particles do that annoying thing when they bump into the plane. Or worse, they bump into parts of the plane that aren't even the wings. Like, the cockpit or the fins and all that other juicy stuff that isn't bits of plane that want to be hit by the air. According to NASA, you can feel drag when you walk against a strong wind. Airplanes are designed to let air pass around them with less drag. An airplane flies when all four forces work together. But most airplanes need one more thing. They need a pilot to fly them. But of course, I talked about the fact that the airplanes fly with all these sorts of forces, but there's more. What can we figure out more about the how they exactly work? What is the sort of force that's keeping them in the sky? Well, there are two main sort of things that you can do to keep the sort of thing going with their engines. That is, of course, the engines themselves. There are two main ones that are used for airplanes. One is the jet engine, and the other is the propeller engine. Curiously enough, there is actually a website out there, the California Aeronautical pronunciation time. The California Aeronautical University says this: to fully understand how an aircraft works, student pilots must become familiar with the forms of propulsion. Understanding how your airplane's engine works helps you to become a safe and efficient pilot. It can also help you diagnose potential mechanical problems and take action to mitigate any damage. Alright. An airplane's engine or engines move the airplane by pulling it through the atmosphere, or by displacing air from in front to behind the airplane. The two main forms of propulsion, the means by which to do this, are propellers, or props for short, and jets. Props are small airfoils, carefully shaped to generate lift. And remember what I was discussing earlier, lift was the force that makes the plane go upwards. Yet instead of directing lift vertically like wings, props direct the lift horizontally. The Wright brothers' success is largely attributed to their research on what makes the most efficient propeller shape should be for their flyer. Meanwhile, on the other hand, jets generate propulsion by pulling in the air, combining it with the fuel, igniting that mixture, and then using the resultant explosion to move the airplane forwards. There are combinations of these two forms, of course, but which they have a terribly cursed names: turboprop and turbofan engines. But that's not in the purview of what we want to discuss. What I want to be curious about is what is propeller power and what is jet engines in their full detail? How do these engines work? Propeller power is the earliest one. It was the one that was invented first. Now, the Wright brothers who were the very, very first people to make an airplane, had an airplane that used a propeller. They carefully studied the birds floating on air currents along the North Carolina shore to understand how to control this power. During the Second World War, and the accompanying rapid advances in technology, propellers reached a peak in how fast they could fly. Even a very efficient propeller engine, however, has an inherent limitation, as the rotational velocity of the tip of the prop basically, approaches the speed of sound. Shock waves develop. Basically, the very, very tip, the ends of the propeller. If you think of like, a World War II plane, you see like the big thing, and it spins. The big inherent problem, though, which the rest of this thing will explain in very, very detailed jargon, is the fact that when the propeller plane moves really fast and keeps spinning and spinning and spinning, when it gets too fast, the bits at the end go faster than the speed of sound. But the speed of sound basically makes it go kind of pop, which then, it makes shock waves, which produces incredible drag and then destroys the propeller. And, I think 100% of scientists agree that the propeller plane flies way less efficiently when the propeller's tips, the ends of it, have blown up and aren't there anymore. Only recently, according to the California Aeronautical University, have further advances in propeller technology sought to solve the problem of tip shock waves. Some examples exist, but there's only so much you can really do. It's like if the design and the technology is just like, oh hey, yeah, the propeller is moving really fast, directing all that air, to the sides, which then goes to the wings, and the wings directed all downwards. Well, I think you can see how that's going to be a bit of a problem. Luckily, though, we had an alternative. Recognizing the limitation of propellers, airplane designers looked to the nascent technology of rockets as a solution for more speed. The earliest jet engines were little more than scaled-down rockets, harnessing the power of exploding fuel/air mixtures to generate thrust. In fact, the first fighter jet, the ME-163, which was a really cool-looking German plane, actually. I do recommend the pictures of it. They were essentially rocket-powered, where the pilot had little control over the thrust from the engine and had to fly until the fuel was expended and then glided to a landing. Needless to say, it was not that successful. The honour that was successful, however, was the ME-262, which had turbojet engines, a design that allowed the pilot much greater control over the thrust, and was more efficient with that thrust and could carry a greater payload of armaments. During World War II, jet engine technology continued to advance, allowing airplanes to go faster and higher than ever. The turbofan engine got developed, leading to a great leap into efficiency, where thrust was generated by a combination of the jet blast out of the back and the fan blades at the front, acting like a propeller. And in fact, that's basically what all the modern planes are. You think when you go flying on holiday, you look at your plane, and unless it's like one of those smaller ones where it might be a propeller, it's generally a turbofan, because it's got a jet engine, but it's got a little propeller at the front of that jet engine. It spins. It does all the things that the propeller wants, but then the air's going in and causing, all the beautiful things that we know and love called flying. Speaking of flying, I'd like to take you on a flight of fancy, a flight of adventure, to this place where these other people exist, and they chat all day about these amazing things. Let's listen to them, and I'll catch you all again very, very soon.
Whoa, Relaks Radio.
আপনি হয়তোবা জানেন না যে রেডিও অ্যাডভার্টাইজমেন্ট ইজ 4 times more powerful than any other media. রিল্যাক্স রেডিওতে যদি অ্যাডভার্টাইজ করতে চান তাহলে আমাদেরকে আজই যোগাযোগ করুন on 020-7474-9292. আমাদের সাথে অ্যাডভার্টাইজ করুন from £99 a month. Increase your business by advertising on Relax Radio.
It's time for a show on Relax Radio. It talks about me and you. It's time for a show on Relaks Radio. It talks about me and you. So listen to us, yeah, 24 hours, and let the happiness come to you on Relaks Radio. Tune in to Relaks Radio.
It has been too long. No one has taken the initiative to know who you are and what you do. Well, Relaks proudly presents Relaks Media to unite and expose all media-related personalities under one umbrella. If you are an artist, or maybe you're looking for one, look no further. Log on to www.relaxmedia.com, RELAKS media.com. In return, you get a free webpage and exposure to wider fan appreciation and contacts. Also, optional personal manager. Don't delay.
Relax Radio.
Phosphorus, says Wikipedia, is a chemical element with the symbol P and the atomic number of 15. Elemental phosphorus exists in two major forms, white phosphorus and red phosphorus. But what exactly does all that mean? What is this chemical, and why am I so interested in it as of late? Sitting in the periodic table, the beautiful, fantastic, wonderful little invention that's basically just like, hey, guys, we could actually classify, all of the elements, and we see that they actually act kind of similar, depending on like how they work and what they have. Isn't that awesome? We get to see that phosphorus sits beautifully in the non-metals. It's actually something that I find really funny about the periodic table and the elements, just as a side. We have the elements, of course, the basic component of chemistry. They're all the atoms with the, you've probably heard it already, the electrons, the protons, all of that stuff. And yeah, it's like, okay, cool. Yeah, like 70% of all of them are all metals. And the non-metals are like this really, really small sliver. Even smaller when you realize that about half of them, or no, a bit less than half of them, are what they call the noble gases, which are these elements that don't interact or barely interact with anything. And so it's like, okay, well, anyway. But that makes the non-metals so much more interesting, though. Phosphorus especially is particularly interesting because it has such a wide application. There's so many uses, so many places. But let's keep it simple for now. Let's talk about the element itself. Elemental phosphorus was first isolated as white phosphorus in 1669. Nice. White phosphorus emits a faint glow when exposed to oxygen, hence its name, which is taken from Greek mythology. In fact, it meant light bearer, referring to the morning star of Venus. Meanwhile, the term phosphorus, this pronunciation time, phosphorescene, meaning glow after illumination, derives from the property of phosphorus, although the word itself has since been used for a different physical process that produces a glow. The glow from phosphorus is caused by oxidization of the white, but not red phosphorus, a process now called chemical luminescence. Together with nitrogen, arsenic, antimony, and bismuth, phosphorus is classified as a, let me sort of get this pronunciation right, P-nitrogen, Pnictrin. The pnictins, of course, are, by the way, a series of elements that include, well, nitrogen, phosphorus, arsenic, antimony, and bismuth. They are basically chemicals uncharacterized by the synthetic element of Moscovian. But it's like, okay, cool. So we have this element, and we've learned a few things. Symbol P on the periodic table has an atomic number of 15. Atomic number, by the way, is how many protons and electrons it has. Which means that if you looked at like the phosphorus atom itself, you'd see that it's got 15 protons, and which are positive charge, and 15 electrons, which are negative charge. Keeps it going, all nice and happy. What we want to see in phosphorus. But wait, some people here might be perking up a bit. Go like, wait, white phosphorus. I've heard that term before. Yes, you might well have, for a variety of different places. But the first one I'd like to sort of talk about is not actually a news site, not actually even an information site. I want to skip over to Amazon, because we have a little product description here, which I want to sort of just read out for you, and make you think. For a healthier and more abundant fruit and vegetables, Miracle Go Superphosphate Fruit and Vegetable Ripener. Oh, what a beautiful name there, don't you think? Like, that's just like, just a little side there, a little tangent. Like, who in the marketing department was like, what's going to be great? It's like, we're going to call it Miracle Grow. It's like, all right, fantastic. That's a brilliant name for a product. Like, yeah. It's like, okay, but we're going to have to be accurate with it. So it's the Miracle Grow, and then Super Phosphate Fruit and Vegetable Ripener. It's like, why would you even call it? It's like, what? Name aside, it helps. This thing of the super long name helps establish plants quickly. It promotes, says Amazon. No, the product description. It promotes strong and healthy rooting, and provides a fast-acting and long-lasting source of phosphorus. Interesting. As I said, I've been talking about phosphorus quite a bit. Phosphorus, says Amazon, or this seller on Amazon anyway, is an essential nutrient for all plants, enhancing their root development, growth factor, and fruit production. It works for several weeks to produce more fruit and vegetables and improve the ripening of plants by giving them the trace elements that they require. Ideal for all plants and root vegetables. It is especially useful for planting out trees and shrubs, or in the vegetable gardens for leguminous plants. Legumes. Fun fact, did you know peanuts are actually legumes, not nuts? Anyway, leguminous plants, potatoes, and fruit trees. Easy to use, according to them. A little bit about weights, and some safety warnings. And by the way, mostly 5-star reviews. So okay, so what have we learned? We've just learned in this first little segment that phosphorus is a non-metal. We've learned that it is an element. Number 15, symbol P. So if you ever want to do like chemistry, maths, that's what they call it, right? Chemistry, maths. I never did get when they do like the symbols. But anyway, the little chemistry there, symbol P, 15 protons in the sort of the nucleus of the atom of phosphorus. And we've also learned that it seems to be apparently useful for fertilizer. When apparently if you want to grow some beautiful potatoes, some big fruit, vegetables, you could probably go do worse than this one fertilizer I found on Amazon with a very helpful description. But by the way, don't be fooled into thinking that's the only one. When I googled phosphorus fertilizers, even when I looked on Amazon for phosphorus fertilizers, there were dozens of different ones. There are many brands to choose from if you want to really invest in your garden, really make the garden grow those best carrots. There are many. You don't have to go for the miracle grow. There are lots of them. But as I said, that's curious. We've realized that phosphorus is useful for plants, but like, how is that, a thing? Well, InfoPlease has got a very, very comprehensive and heavy article on this. Phosphorus is present in plants and animals, says InfoPlease. There is over 454 grams of the stuff, or 1 pound, if you want to use the wrong measurement system, of phosphorus in just the human body. Okay, good to know. It is a component of ATP, or to use the horrible big name, it's adenosine triphosphate. Adenosine triphosphate, which is a fundamental energy source in living things. Here we get to see a little bit of a thing, don't we? It is found in complex organic compounds such as the blood, muscles, and nerves, and in calcium phosphate, the principal material in bones and teeth. So yes, give us a smile, because phosphorus is actually one of the elements that is making those teeth. Unless you're like one of those people who's got like all fillings all replaced. Like my own teeth are not that great because I'm too fond of the sugary stuff, and so I've got like loads of fillings. But anyway, all of that aside, the phosphorus compounds are essential. No, phosphorus compounds are essential in a healthy diet. Organic phosphates, ferric phosphates, and tricalcium phosphates are added, or even just added to food to have a better diet. Dicalcium phosphate, meanwhile, is added to animal feeds. I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it? If your teeth are made for the stuff, if your bones has a lot of phosphorus in it, if phosphorus is vital to the compounds of blood, of muscles, and nerves, well, what kind of diet would it be if you didn't have any? You'd have to eat it. You'd have to get through it. But is that all there is to it? Is that just the end of the story? Like, oh, phosphorus, like, it's cool, you can put it in plants, you can eat it. Well, not quite. This little expose, this hour-long discussion on the element of phosphorus, will continue, but just after this little public service announcement by other people. I'll catch you all very, very soon.
Whoa, Relaks Radio.
আপনি হয়তোবা জানেন না যে রেডিও অ্যাডভার্টাইজমেন্ট ইজ 4 times more powerful than any other media. রিল্যাক্স রেডিওতে যদি অ্যাডভার্টাইজ করতে চান তাহলে আমাদেরকে আজই যোগাযোগ করুন on 020-7474-9292. আমাদের সাথে অ্যাডভার্টাইজ করুন from £99 a month. Increase your business by advertising on Relaks Radio.
It's time for a show on Relax Radio. It talks about me and you. It's time for a show on Relax Radio. It talks about me and you. So listen to us, 24 hours, and let the happiness come to you on Relax Radio. Tune in to Relax Radio.
It has been too long. No one has taken the initiative to know who you are and what you do. Well, Relaks proudly presents Relaks Media to unite and expose all media-related personalities under one umbrella. If you are an artist, or maybe you're looking for one, look no further. Log on to www.relaxmedia.com RELAKS media.com. In return, you get a free webpage and exposure to wider fan appreciation and contacts. Also, optional personal manager. Don't delay.
Relaks Radio.
So, welcome back to the Wednesday Witterer. My name is Jorge Shaft, and today I'm talking about phosphorus. In 2015, says a report by the United States government, in 2015, Morocco was the world's leading exporter of phosphates in all forms. It was, in fact, the world's second-ranked producer of phosphate rock after China, and it accounted for 13.5% of the world's global phosphate rock output. Morocco was also the world's second-ranked producer in bariton, which is another chemical. All right, that's a very, very curious little thing. Phosphorus, however, is a big deal when it comes to Morocco. According to the various sources, it could account for as much as 75% of all of the world's, reserves of the stuff. Makes sense, of course, why they would be so possessive of the material. After all, as I just said, it turns out that it's extremely useful in fertilizer. Continue with the US government. In 2015, the main mining activities in Western Sahara, which is a disputed zone in the world because the people the Western Sahara region wants to be its own independent country, but the main mining activities in Western Sahara included cement and phosphate rock production, and offshore crude petroleum and natural gas exploration. The issue of sovereignty for Western Sahara, which was claimed by the government of Morocco, and as well as the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic, or SADR, and the Popular Front of the Liberation of the Sangria El Hamra and the Rio del Oro, remained unresolved in the year of 2015. And spoiler alert, it still isn't. About 85% of Western Saharan territory is administered by the government of Morocco, and the remaining 15% is under the administration of the Polisario, which was the last faction there, the Popular sort of Liberation Front. The territory is a desert area, bordering on the Atlantic Ocean between Mauritania and Morocco. Western Sahara's economy was dependent on fishing, pastoral nomadism, and that phosphate rock. The Bouakrat's phosphate rock mine, which was owned by the Phosphate de Boukra SA, was the main mineral production facility in the region. So there's an interesting thing. As I said, phosphorus is an element. It's this non-metal, 15 on the periodic table. But for something that's just like in a fertilizer, you wouldn't think that this would be something that a war basically is fought over. Like, it's clear that that an entire region, an entire place with which, people live and work and have their day-to-day lives is so contested. And then so contested also for the fact that it's got phosphorus and that there's this big mine of phosphate rock that is going there. A phosphate mine, by the way, that is not all that well run, or it wasn't 5 years ago. In 2015, The Guardian posted this: Toxic shadow. Phosphate miners in Morocco fear they pay a high price. state-owned mining giant producing fertilizer and phosphoric acid, denies that poisonous byproducts of the phosphate industry cause illness and death. But a miner called Abdelatif Ben Maruf was tired in 2015. His health was deteriorating. He can't breathe through his nose and has lost his sense of smell. During conversation, he gasps for breath. For 26 years, I worked 8-hour shifts a day, every day, exposed to dust and gases from ammonia, fluoride, phosphoric, and sulfuric acid, he explained. He's a father of 2. We had little protection, just a disposable face mask for the dust. No one ever explained to us what we were inhaling. 3 years ago, so this would have been in 2012, Maruf, who was 53 in 2015, was diagnosed with throat cancer. He retired shortly after from his job as a mechanic at a fertilizer factory in the Moroccan port of Jorf Lasfar. The factory, run by the state-owned mining corporation OCP, converts phosphate rock into fertilizer and phosphoric acid, a common additive to soft drinks. As you can see, the same trend is applying. Food and fertilizer. It's added to the things we eat. Phosphorus is in our bones. Literally, the bones are made of, in part, phosphorus. And it's a valuable material for this part of the world as well. Morocco and Western Sahara, according to The Guardian, sit on around 75% of global reserves of phosphate rock. And although it's not running out, shortages in supply can occur. Another of their fertilizer plants was located in the city of Safi. This town is surrounded by smog. A resident who lost his brother, aged 59, to cancer a few years ago, shortly after he retired from his job, said, "My brother had no idea about the level of toxicity of the chemicals he was exposed to daily. The containers are labeled, but in English, German, or Polish, languages that people in Western Sahara don't speak or understand." The guy they interviewed, who was 56, worked in the factory in Safi as well for 3 decades. Now he is crouched on his sofa, his eyes dark and sunken. He has a tumor on his right kidney. Why weren't we educated on the risks we were taking working in this environment? But phosphate is something quite useful and quite intense. So even if basically it's toxic to work with, all this phosphate rock and all the chemical processes involved. But yet we buy up all of the stuff. We buy up all of the products. We eat it. It's in our food. It's added to our food. But so I think we've established a couple of things, don't we? We've established that phosphorus is a non-metal. We've established that phosphorus has a chemical symbol of P. It's number 15 on the periodic table. We've established that it was discovered in 1669, or isolated as such anyway. We've also established that it is vital for, food and for human health. So vital, in fact, that the government of Morocco is willing to take over another country, pretty much, and subject the workers on the main phosphorus mine there to appalling conditions just to get more phosphorus out there. That sort of behavior doesn't really happen unless we're dealing with something pretty valuable, pretty sort of important. I think you might be noticing that it's like, hey, wait a minute. You're saying that you've established already that it's valuable, it's important. We all eat it, clearly. We need phosphorus as a, something to, have. But what exactly is that role in biology? What exactly is the full extent of it? Because that actually wasn't done yet. According to the mineravita.com, the roles of phosphorus in the body are actually way more extensive than even that. These for, wait for it, building bones and teeth, the use of carbohydrates, sugars and fat. They're in protein synthesis, in growth, they serve as a source of energy in the form of, remember what I mentioned earlier, ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which of course creates phosphates. Phosphorus is used in muscle contractions, in kidney function, regulation of the heart, transmission of nerve impulses. It reduces muscle soreness after hard work, and most crucially of all, is in the production of genetic material, DNA. Oh, and it also maintains balance. Helps. We need the element, or phosphates exactly, to maintain balance and help the utilization of various other minerals and elements that you need to keep a human body going. It is part of the cell membrane within what they call the phospholipid. I actually think I nailed that pronunciation. Anyway, it is also necessary in all of the metabolic pathways of the body, including energy production and cell division. It is also a part of many enzymes and hormones, and it also is a chemical very useful in maintaining the normal acido-base balance in the body. So, there it is drilled in again. Phosphorus is important. Phosphorus is something that is clearly not just, it's nice to have. It is, from so many functions, obviously an essential element for a human being. Like, can you imagine a human being with all of that stuff not being done or not being done properly? I'm sorry, but that's a dead person you're describing there. A person who can't, whose muscles can't recover from soreness. A person whose heart isn't being regulated. Whose kidneys aren't working. That's somebody who's really, really in awful shape. And then not to mention, of course, the fact that their bones themselves are made of in part of phosphorus or phosphates. Bones are complicated. Maybe I should do an episode on one day. But we can establish, as I said, phosphorus is essential for human life. And not just human life, by the way. Phosphorus is also important in plant life. Plants need the phosphorus to... Here we go. Phosphorus is important in what they call signal transduction for plants. Basically, together with a few other elements, the plants use the phosphorus as... This is going to be a bit hard to... There's going to be a lot of hard words here, but... is a secondary messenger molecule used in signal transduction and lipid signaling in biological molecules. While DAG, which is another chemical, stays inside the membrane, the phosphorus is soluble and it diffuses through the cell. It is made by hydrolysis of another phosphate, which then is used to make plasma membranes for plants, an essential thing for plants to go for. Basically, in other words, phosphorus is used as the energy for plants. Is part of the sort of hang on just a moment, because I can't find the exact thing that sort of describes why it's important in plants. Guess I'm going to have to go for a picture. It is, but as I said, it's basically used for sort of like the energy production in a plant. Which, okay, interesting. So now we know that phosphorus is an element that's important to both humans and to plants, which then of course links up back to what I said earlier about the fertilizers. The fact that there's this massive industry that basically justifies a war, a full-on war pretty much, to take phosphorus and then use it to put into plants which then allows the plants to grow, because now we know that the phosphorus is very important in basically the energy production of like sugars within the plant when they're photosynthesizing, which then we eat and, helps out our own health and make sure that we can do the things such as staying alive. Curious. But wait, the thing with phosphorus is it gets even deeper than that. So make sure to stay on for just a little bit while these other people talk.
Whoa, Relaks Radio.
আপনি হয়তোবা জানেন না যে রেডিও অ্যাডভার্টাইজমেন্ট ইজ 4 times more powerful than any other media. রিল্যাক্স রেডিওতে যদি অ্যাডভার্টাইজ করতে চান তাহলে আমাদেরকে আজই যোগাযোগ করুন on 020-7474-9292. আমাদের সাথে অ্যাডভার্টাইজ করুন from £99 a month. Increase your business by advertising on Relaks Radio.
It's time for a show on Relaks Radio. It talks about me and you. It's time for a show on Relaks Radio. It talks about me and you. So listen to us, 24 hours, and let the happiness come to you on Relaks Radio. Tune in to Relaks Radio.
It has been too long. No one has taken the initiative to know who you are and what you do. Well, Relaks proudly presents Relaks Media to unite and expose all media-related personalities under one umbrella. If you are an artist or maybe you're looking for one, look no further. Log on to www.relaksmedia.com, RELAKS media.com. In return, you get a free webpage and exposure to wider fan appreciation and contacts. Also, optional personal manager. Don't delay.
Relaks Radio.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Wednesday Witterer with Jorge Shaft. I have been covering and discussing the element of phosphorus, and just as a little recap, I discussed a whole bunch of different things about phosphorus. We've learned so far that phosphorus is a non-metal, that it is number 15 on the periodic table, that it glows in the dark in its pure state and was discovered in 1669. We then also figured out the fact that phosphorus has played some role in plant growth, because there's a lot of fertilizers out there that are all about, hey, we have phosphorus. This we found was further backed up by the fact that 75% of the global phosphate reserves are in basically one place, Morocco, or rather should I say Western Sahara, occupied by Morocco because of the phosphorus deposit there, where they subjected, or at least 5 years ago subjected workers to dangerous conditions to mine more phosphorus, which was then put into the fertilizer. Then the fertilizer, it is absorbed by the plants and then used as a chemical essential for their energy production. The fact that the basically photosynthesis does not work without phosphorus. And then we eat it, or the phosphorus is just added to our food via becoming phosphate acid, which is then added to soft drinks. There, after we've drunk our soda, we will be damn happy about having all that phosphorus in us, because apart from the fact that our bones and teeth are literally made of the stuff, or partially made of the stuff, there's also the fact that the phosphorus plays a huge number of essential roles within our biology, including for muscles, for the heart, and for the kidneys. But that's not all there is to it. But yes, there's more to phosphorus, and more interesting questions being solved by, knowledge of it. According to the Encyclopedia Britannica, phosphorus is a very widely distributed element. In fact, it is the 12th most abundant in the Earth's crust, to which it contributes about 0.10% of the weight of the Earth's crust. Its cosmic abundance, on the other hand, is about 1 atom per 100 atoms of silicon, which is about the standard, actually. That's usually what it is. Its high chemical reactivity assures that it does not occur in the free state, except in a few meteorites. Phosphorus almost always occurs as the phosphate ion. The principal combined forms in nature are the phosphate salts, of which about 550 different minerals have been found to contain phosphorus. But of these, the principal source of phosphorus is the apatite series, in which basically calcium ions exist with the phosphate ions, and various other amounts of, a whole bunch of different other chemicals. Interesting. But why did I linger on the fact that it is on the Earth? Why did I mention that? Well, I mentioned this because of the fact that it's actually a fairly good explanation, when you realize all that put together, as to why it is not exactly, basically why we seem so alone out there. I skip over to Matthew Dale, writing for The Boar in 2018. Could phosphorus be the reason for our loneliness in the universe? The Fermi paradox is a famous conundrum posed by Enrico Fermi, which asks why we have yet to discover intelligent life in a universe which, on the balance of probability, should have enough planets where life can evolve. Many science fiction solutions have been proposed, including that one super advanced civilization destroys everything else, or that there's a computer that's simulating the universe. However, in 2018, recent research from Cardiff University may have another answer to this question entirely: a scarcity of phosphate in the universe. Though phosphorus doesn't get the credit that more famous cousins on the periodic table like carbon do, it is actually one of the 6 elements that life as we know it depends on. Not only is phosphate, the naturally occurring form of the element phosphorus, a key component for, remember, ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which is also called the currency of biological energy, by the way, which stores and transfers energy needed to power everything in the body. It is also the backbone of DNA and RNA, which are the classic thing of this twisted ladder, basically the molecules that make living things at all. Dr. Jane Greaves, according to The Boar, said that astronomers have just started to pay attention to the cosmic origins of phosphorus and found quite a few surprises. Among those things was the fact that phosphorus is created in supernovas, and the fact that the phosphorus is not really as common as we thought. An initial results of research into the Crab Nebula, which is a big one of the most recent of the nebulas, one of the most recent of a big supernova, found that the Crab Nebula actually ejected much less phosphorus than another one called Cassiopeia A. This indicates that there's actually a significant difference in the amount of phosphorus ejected from different supernovas, which Dr. Phil Sigan attributes to Cassiopeia's resulting from an explosion of a rare supermassive star. So there's something interesting. Regular stars going supernova, blowing up, don't create much phosphorus. You only need a really, really, really big star exploding to create phosphorus at all. And it gets more interesting than that. The Earth, therefore, may have only been able to play host to the greatest show on Earth and develop life due to it being near a supernova which ejected lots of phosphorus. Dr. Greaves, in their study, suggests that if phosphorus is provided by supernovas, then planets will be reliant on a neighboring supernova to eject meteorites with phosphorus-bearing materials to hit that planet. In that case, she said, life might really struggle to get started out of phosphorus-poor chemistry on another world otherwise similar to our own, said Dr. Greaves. As these results suggest, more common supernovas seem to provide less phosphorus. This doesn't bode well in our quest for intelligent life. In fact, that's actually the thing that got me started on this whole track in the first place. Isaac Arthur, our YouTube channel, who I really do recommend, did a big episode on the fact that phosphorus is actually fairly rare in the universe. A little description of it that was put up by another site. In this half-hour-long video, Isaac Arthur explains how the genesis and origin of life may require a very rare and delicate mixture of certain chemicals. One of those is phosphorus, and trying to figure out how we ever got enough of it on Earth's primordial soup for life to form in the first place has long puzzled scientists. And there's the pièce de la résistance really on why I suddenly got so interested in phosphorus. Because let's go and rewind all of the things and find out what we've learned to see the build-up. Phosphorus is a non-metal. It is number 15 on the periodic table and is a symbol of P. It was first discovered and isolated in its pure form in 1669, where it was found to be a white glowing material in pure form. We found out then that phosphorus is sold commercially. You can get it very cheaply. It's like £7 on Amazon in fertilizer. That made sense, however, when we found out then that the phosphorus is essential to the production of sugars and energies in plants. A process that then also held true when we looked at human beings. We found that even on Earth, the phosphorus is a sufficiently rare and a sufficiently valuable material, in mining form, and basically an entire war is fought for it. And Morocco mistreated its workers working with the stuff, clearly in an effort to boost those production numbers, get more phosphorus created, get more of the stuff made. And then we found out that the Earth was actually an unusual planet in the fact that it has way more phosphorus than anywhere else or for large swathes of the galaxy anyway. Because regular supernovas, when a regular star explodes, it actually produces very, very little phosphorus. You need to have a supermassive star, a really, really, really big star exploding to create phosphorus, or to create a lot of phosphorus. Unfortunate when you realize that super, super, super massive stars exploding often create black holes, which then suck up all that phosphorus and make it disappear. So, oops. Now that's interesting. And there's the realization. Phosphorus is an element that is important to the running of life. It is so important that governments recognize it and fight to hold on to reserves of the stuff. And they are right to, because it is rare in the universe. And most of the universe doesn't really have as much. So what are we doing with the phosphorus? Clearly, as I've talked about, there's the fertilizer, But there's got to be some more, isn't there? Well, I'd say something more, but I'm contractually obliged to let you know that these other people want to have a chat. So we'll catch you all again very, very soon.
Whoa, Relaks Radio.
আপনি হয়তোবা জানেন না যে রেডিও অ্যাডভার্টাইজমেন্ট ইজ 4 times more powerful than any other media. রিল্যাক্স রেডিওতে যদি অ্যাডভার্টাইজ করতে চান তাহলে আমাদেরকে আজই যোগাযোগ করুন on 020-7474-9292. আমাদের সাথে অ্যাডভার্টাইজ করুন from £99 a month. Increase your business by advertising on Relaks Radio.
It's time for a show on Relaks Radio. It talks about me and you. It's time for a show on Relaks Radio. It talks about me and you. So listen to us, 24 hours, and let the happiness come to you on Relaks Radio. Tune in to Relaks Radio.
It has been too long. No one has taken the initiative to know who you are and what you do. Well, Relaks proudly presents Relaks Media to unite and expose all media-related personalities under one umbrella. If you are an artist or maybe you're looking for one, look no further. Log on to www.relaksmedia.com. RELAKS media.com. In return, you get a free webpage and exposure to wider fan appreciation and contacts. Also, optional personal manager. Don't delay.
Relaks Radio.
Hello and welcome back to the Wednesday Witcherer. My name is Jorge Shaft, and I've been spending just about almost an hour now discussing phosphorus. Phosphorus is very, very interesting, and, well, I've been making a big point of refraining and building up and repeating what I've been saying, just to make sure the lessons are all learned. So say it with me, and let's go. Phosphorus is a non-metal. It is number 15 on the chemical periodic table. It was first discovered or isolated in 1669, where it was found to be a white, glowing material in its pure form. However, it is almost never actually found in its pure form. It is found as phosphate in the ground, where it takes up, whereas the 12th most abundant element on the Earth. Very unusual though, because it's much rarer in most of the rest of the galaxy. It is made in a fairly unusual way. And good thing it is though so prevalent on the Earth though, because it is absolutely essential for the way in which life as we know it on Earth works. We found out that for plants it is used to sort of store and to use energy and to create energy for them to grow. For human beings it does the same role, but then also is used to build DNA, kind of important to for building blocks. It is also a material used to build bones. Bones are literally made of like a phosphate and various other calciums and other chemicals. And if we don't have phosphorus, we will die. We also found that phosphorus production for fertilizer was in fact such a big business, so important, that it's the reason why there's a government is oppressing another country and abusing its people to get more of the stuff made. And more of that stuff made to, in a universe where there are probably not even that many aliens out there, because they would need phosphorus to be alive too. Yet there isn't the phosphorus out there. So there are aliens, so that's possibly why we don't see any aliens at all. I suppose the final question to ask would be, okay, so what do we do with this stuff? Why do we... What do we want to know about, like, what are we doing with all this phosphorus on Earth? Apart from eating it? Well, the British government has got a little bit of a hazard warning when it deals with, in particular, the pure stuff, which is called white phosphorus. Or one of the pure forms, anyway. Also known as yellow phosphorus, white phosphorus is a white to yellow waxy solid with a garlic-like odour. And remember, it glows as well. White phosphorus may enter the environment from certain industrial processes or from accidents involving its transport. People in the military who use phosphorus-containing ammunitions may be exposed to white phosphorus smoke during combat, training, or accidents. Military, you might be saying. Where would that come in? Well, it probably comes in by the fact that white phosphorus is highly corrosive and irritating. Breathing white phosphorus will cause irritation to the nose and throat, cough, and shortness of breath. Ingestion of white phosphorus will irritate the mouth, throat, and stomach, causing nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. A substantial exposure may cause heart, liver, and kidney damage, coma, and in severe cases, death. Skin exposure to white phosphorus will lead to redness, severe pain, burns, and blisters. It will also cause severe eye irritation and burns. Ouch, ouch, ouch. I think is the very least that could be said on this one. And white phosphorus munitions are more common even than that. Though where... I had an article up, but I'm trying to find it. Hang on a moment. Welcome to the George Breakfast Buffet, where sometimes we miss out on the excuse me while I interrupt. Anyway, white phosphorus is used as I said, a weapon. According to Wikipedia, white phosphorus munitions are weapons which use one of the most common allotropes of the chemical element of phosphorus. While white phosphorus is used in smoke, illumination, and incendiary ammunitions, and commonly the burning element of tracer ammo. Oops. Other common names include WP and the slang term of Willie Pete or Willie Peter, derived from William Peter, the World War II phonetic alphabet for WP, which is sometimes used for, in military jargon. White phosphorus is pyrophobic, which means that it self-ignites with contact with the air, it burns fiercely, and it can ignite cloth, fuel, ammunition, and other combustibles. So yeah, I would discuss, the burns and the horrific effects that it does in more detail. But honestly, you don't need those kinds of images in your life. I'm sorry. They're horrible. But really does put things into perspective. We have this essential element. It's rare. We need it for life. But yet we humans decide, we've got so much of this phosphorus stuff. Really essential for being alive, right? And also quite rare. Let's just use it in the military and blow stuff up and burn things with this essential life-giving element. Worse than that, remember when I was talking about the fertilizer? I was talking about how on Amazon they were selling the fact that you could grow really good big plants on it. Well, we use that fertilizer on a massive industrial scale. And, we don't use it very efficiently. We use way too much. And then it runs off. It's estimated, I can't find for the life of me the source that mentioned it, but we lose several hundreds of thousands, at least millions, of tons of phosphorus every year. Wasted. because it was used as fertilizer on a farm, and then it rained the next day, and it washed out all that powder from the surface of the dirt, not going into any plant, not being eaten by any person. I think the call to action is pretty clear. We really need to be far, far more aware of phosphorus, and we need to start having an actual, real appreciation of the role it is playing, both in our lives and in our deaths. It's clear that this is something that we can't just play around with. This is a material that, if we ever do want to take up space travel in a serious way, we need to really start thinking about and start acting on how to store it, how to conserve it, and how to figure out how to bring it along with us. We need to think of we need to even start considering maybe things like white phosphorus being a war crime. I mean, it's incendiary as it is. Flamethrowers are a war crime these days, if I remember correctly. And yet, we use the stuff for what? Oh, now you know which way the bullet went. Or, if you look at Syria's case, now let's just chuck the stuff on civilians, in Mosul, for example, which is Iraq, but same kind of general conflict. And I saw some really disturbing pictures of just like these huge white clouds of the stuff being dropped on Mosul, which then started a fire and burned a bunch of people. It has been claimed, said The Sun, in 2019, in October. It's actually the 1 year anniversary of this article. Anyway, by The Sun, it has been claimed that the horrific weapons that were used in Turkish airstrikes are being used to bombard Kurdish strongholds in northern Syria. It is claimed that they are using white phosphorus, despite the fact that it is banned by the international community. And there's those pictures. Lovely. White phosphorus has been used extensively in combat through the years, although now there are regulations restricting its use. The first use of the compound is thought to have been by Fenian arsonists in the 19th century. Since then, white phosphorus has been used widely in a long list of conflicts, including World War I, World War II, and the Korean War and the Vietnam War. White phosphorus was also used in more recent conflicts, such as by Saddam Hussein in 1988, during the poison gas attack on Halabja. The most recent allegations now say that it is being used by Turkish forces against the Kurds. Yeah, we've got to go further. We've got to ban this stuff. We've got to find a way to get the stockpiles of this dangerous material and use it. It has a lot of useful civilian applications. As I said, it can be a fertilizer. We can eat it, as long as it's not in this dangerous white phosphorus weaponized form. And we should really start to do so. We should really start to take it seriously and be more efficient and less wasteful in its use. Otherwise, we might realize that our long-term dreams and ambitions of colonizing the stars with a human empire worth being proud of are going to be a bit dashed by the fact that we can't send an element, some food, with them. But what do you think? Do you think that this is an interesting expose, or do you think that, this was boring? Contact the studio. I'd say the number, but unfortunately I'm just about to finish this. So, goodbye, and have a wonderful time. I'll see you next week on the Wednesday Witterer, but I am also discussing how to figure out, how to get like another slot. I like doing these more than once. I also like talking about politics. But in the meantime, and in between time, have a really good day, and I'll catch you all again very, very soon.